everything that everyone wants that involves sex, of course, which includes Viagra and birth control pills. Did you ever think that if the government stopped forcing them to buy the Viagra and the birth control pills, that maybe they wouldn't have to buy so much of both? That's the way the government works.
They give Viagra to ex-cons who are sex offenders.
That would be are you a bigot? I mean, are you a bigot against ex-cons?
Do that.
Racist.
He's a racist too. He's a racist too. Now, some of the more politically astute among you who follow the Supreme Court decision say, well, wait a minute, the Supreme Court solved that with the Hobby Lobby decision and said there's a religious exemption to buying all that Viagra and birth control pills. And I think this is an idea with great potential. I think that I should form a new religion, and it's called the Church of Full Employment. Can you guess what the religious ritual involves?
Working.
In the church, yeah, it involves working, but the important thing is in the Church of Full Employment, it is a form of apostasy for the employer to buy any health care at all. So we just pay them more and they can buy their own health care. Can you imagine that? That type of freedom would make the liberals' heads explode. It'd be almost as much freedom as being allowed to sort of send your kids to the school that you wanted them to instead of a government monopoly school. People's heads would be exploding all over Portland. Getting back to this decision on Hobby Lobby, my opponent took this decision very seriously. He thinks that if you don't buy women birth control, it's a blow against their reproductive freedom. Now, does anybody get this? That if you don't buy birth control, you're interfering with women's rights to reproduce?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that my opponent knows what birth control really is. I thought the whole idea was that you wanted to have fun without reproducing. But this, in a nutshell, is really the new mantra of the Democrats. If you don't pay for my fun, you're interfering with my freedom.
Right.
And that, by the way, is a really important concept in queer justice world as well. We're not going to protect rights to property. In queer justice world, the Constitution is about letting people steal people's property so they can have sex. Anyway, back to unemployment. Obamacare has the answer for the employers. If you just fire all the full-time workers and hire a bunch of part-time workers, you don't have to buy Obamacare. So we are having hundreds of thousands of more part-time jobs. Funny, huh? Why else is there such high unemployment? Well, you ever remember the stories you've heard as children about the troll under the bridge? Okay.
Yeah.
We should think of the government as the troll under the bridge. Okay, and if there's anything a citizen wants to do that doesn't involve sex but involves making money, the government shows up and says, doesn't he head out from under the bridge? Do you have a license for that? And so we charge people for things that they want to do. So if you are, want to open up Leroy's House of Corn, hair braiding, all of a sudden, once again, we've got the hair braiding police. And the hair braiding police show up, and it's off. You've got to go to 17,000 hours of school and spend $70,000 so you can be a properly certified hair braider. We used to have on-the-job training. It used to be if you wanted to be a nurse, you'd go get a nurse's diploma, okay? And we've got we've got 100,000 nurses out there with nurses diploma, and they're all treating people, and everybody's happy. And Democrats, state houses, have a new idea. You can't be a nurse unless you have a 4-year bachelor's degree. And so now all these nurses have to go back to school for 4 years, or they can't be nurses anymore. And that's how we improve healthcare in America, by making less nurses. So is it any wonder that people would rather stay home and collect welfare than go out on the road and meet the insane troll under the bridge who keeps coming up with all these crazy requirements? It's really out of control. Why else? How about environmental restrictions? We can't cut down trees and make wood products because it's not like they're going to grow back, right? You cut one tree, they're gone forever, right?
Right.
I mean, if you all have flown over Oregon and you've seen how there's hardly any trees left, this is a very serious problem. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. My opponent, Earl Blumenauer, has the answer. It doesn't matter that there's so many obstacles to a business, opening up a business or hiring people or a job. We're going to legalize marijuana so you can just stay stoned and not have to worry about this at all.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I do want to give credit where credit is due. I don't believe that people are little cows owned by the government or to be told what to eat or drink. And so The French proverb is that even a blind pig finds an acorn now and again. So maybe Bruno was right about that. We shouldn't be filling up our jails with nonviolent drug offenders. We should probably be filling them up with Wall Street bankers.
Right.
It used to be that we had racketeers in this country. Remember the Lucky Luciano and Gotti, Genovese, and now we have J.P. Morgan Chase, Citibank, and they can go out and commit felony after felony, perjury, bribery, money laundering, and if the same law, people can go to jail now in America for months for stealing $20 of a loaf of bread. But if you're one of these corporations, you can commit 20 or 30 felonies, and there's a different kind of police to pull over. It's okay. We're here. We're the Wall Street police. Give us our cut.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about now. It's all about partners in crime. That's what the Dodd-Frank is. It's a giant partners in crime act. So we have a new level of corruption, and the corruption's sort of funny in a way. In the old days, corruption was sort of simple. You have like the Tammany Hall gang, and they're running the city. We want to go build a courthouse, and all of a sudden we hire some brother-in-law to buy the marble, and the marble turns out to cost 50% more, and it's some rare Italian marble or something. And you get something that's sort of like a palace that costs 3 or 4 times as much as it should have. But in the end, you've got a courthouse, right? Okay? But we've taken it to a whole new level in Oregon. We are the world's leaders now in corruption, because in the Oregon kind of corruption, you can spend $200 million to build a bridge, and you don't even get a bridge, right? Okay? Or you can spend $300 million to build a website, healthcare website, to provide healthcare for all Oregonians, and you get nothing. It never launches, right? And nobody goes to jail. Nobody's sent up the river. This is poof. It's like poof. The money's gone. So I think, if there were corruption Olympics, Oregon would be clearly qualified for the corruption Olympics. I know Obama would win the gold, and Eric Holder would win the silver, and Harry Reid would win the bronze, but we'd really be in the run. So if we want to feel better about Oregon, that's what we've got to push, the corruption Olympics. We've got the most transparent administration in history, but the only thing transparent is corruption.
Right.
Now, there is a solution that we have. We have a new foreign policy to stop corruption. You know what it is? We're going to bribe the people not to be corrupt. What's the newest frontier in corruption? It's too big to fail. Ever heard of too big to fail? This is not a sex joke. Too big to fail is where you're some giant crooked corporation that writes big campaign checks to the members of Congress, or the candidates, like greens of these checks, I agree with these checks. And then you have them all on your payroll, like little puppets. Hi, I'm Earl Blumenauer. Hi, I'm Susan Bonamici.
Thanks.
And when you make those kind of contributions, then if you decide to do something really, really stupid, like say you're Citibank, and you decide, I'm going to take some illegal aliens in California, and I'm going to give them $1 million to buy a house, even though they make $8 an hour pounding drywall. How's that for a business decision? Now, it's true that in California, $1 million will only get you a 2-bedroom condo with bad plumbing and bugs. But this is the modern business model. And then after you make $15 trillion worth of loans like this, and surprise, they all go bad, it's easy. You're too big to fail. You just show up and Congress will bail you out. If you don't write a $600 million check, the boogeyman's going to get you. And they come around and all the time cower in their little corners, and they're all afraid that the boogeyman's going to get them unless they write a $600 billion check. So my opponent has taken this to new levels. Last fall, he voted to extend the too big to fail concept, not just to American banks, but to the foreign branches as well. And when they pointed out what he had done, he said that he had voted that way by mistake. Well, humor, but it's absolutely true. So in a fair world, we'd have everybody would be too big to fail. So if you've got some dumb idea for a business, let's say if you want to build a restaurant, you want to sell fried chicken, and everybody's going to sit in a hot tub and eat fried chicken, and the idea doesn't work out too well because the grease gets in the water. But you go out and you borrow $5 million from the government, and it doesn't work, and then they just write you a check. Why wouldn't this work? Why can't we just do this? You know what the end game is here? It's like Easter Island. We have this thing with all these statues, and there's more people left, and that's what happens now. We have the government building windmills, and building fancy transportation signs, and building all factories that don't make anything, and fewer and fewer people, fewer and fewer money. I have a special place in my heart for transportation policy at the same time I got it. Partly because I just spent an incredibly long time in Dundee.
Yeah, we can all relate to that.
There's a special place in hell for transportation planners whose entire mantra is, we cannot build any more lanes under any circumstances whatsoever. That's the policy. Now, my opponent specializes in transportation policy, and he's out there pumping to raise the gas taxes, working very closely with his friends in Portland to raise the street fees. They want to have a new street fee in Portland because taxes have just got to go up. And so it's kind of amusing to see what they actually spent the money on. Drive across the Hawthorne Bridge in Portland, you'll see this big fancy sign that counts bicycles. And you can imagine how this works. You have this committee of 15 city employees, each of whom makes $75,000 a year, and they spend 6 months designing this bicycle counting thing. $500,000, and then they hire somebody's brother-in-law to build it, and another $500,000. And now we have this sign, and all the bike activists standing in front of it. You think about this. You ever seen the bike activists? They wear these string plastic costumes like lizard skins. Aren't they cool? We feel so good about ourselves because we save so much carbon. Of course, out in East County and other areas, little kids are getting run over because there's no crosswalks or sidewalks or anything in the streets at all. It's like Death Race 2014. But of course, the lizard people would say that reduces the carbon load by killing people, and they're probably happy about that too. If you drive out of Portland down here through I-5 South, you see all these signs now, recommended speed, big fancy electric sign, change recommended speed 25, 35, 40. And I'm sitting here, nothing says, we think you're stupid, Oregon taxpayers, like a sign that says recommended speed. I mean, do they really think that in a line of parked cars in rush hour, we're going to look over the speed limit sign, 55 miles an hour? No.
Yeah.
This is total complete waste. I believe somewhere there's a cabal of these $100,000 a year transportation guys, and they're sitting around in their meeting, right, thinking up all the stupid ways they can think of to do anything, to spend their budget, anything but build more lanes or build any bridges, right? I can see it. I mean, we have traffic circles now. Anybody who's driven in traffic circles in other countries or places where people aren't crazy knows that the whole idea of a traffic circle is you don't have to stop. It's a yield, right? So you've got these transportation planners in Portland. Let's put stop signs all around the circle. or let's take these 4-lane roads we've got and let's turn them into 2-lane roads because it'll improve traffic. They're so stupid they'll believe us, right? And then they can even sit around in one of those surveillance vans and take pictures of all the people cursing stuck in the traffic and say, we need all those fools stopped for no reason. Yeah, and what else do they spend the money on? One of my favorite projects is called it's too stupid, but it's a giant pile of rusting angle iron welded together at the Hawthorne and Morrison Bridge. It cost $700,000. It's supposed to evoke Portland's vanished industrial past. Now, I think that the collapsing buildings along Powell evoke Portland's vanished industrial past. It would be cheaper to just take pictures of those. Maybe we put underneath the names of all the Democratic politicians who caused that problem. A month ago, they had an article in the paper that said they were actually going to think about maybe not wasting so much money, but there were some really important projects they had to save. You know what one of the most important projects mentioned in the article was? Yarn bombing. Anybody here know what yarn bombing is? Yarn bombing is where you essentially put wool sweaters on sculptures that are in Pioneer Place or somewhere else, decorate them. And so, how expensive could that be? Just give this taxpayer's charge card to a couple of city employees. They go out to Nordstrom. I've got this really cute number. It's green. It's only $2,000 and it's made out of silk. What can I say? So we've got some politicians now who are really making a mark in their profession. They're all over. They're winning the Olympics. I think President Obama is making a mark in spending. It's just it's incredible. Jason says that we have to end after 10 minutes, so I'm going to call it a close. Thank you very much for your attention, and keep up the fight. This is important. This is important keep the truth going about how crazy things are. Because as someone who works with the levers of government, laws, I can tell you that it's not fun. It's far worse than you can possibly imagine. Thank you.
Obama's done. Me either. So Michelle Obama recently told a Washington, D.C. newspaper that she can't wait for the United States to have a woman president. Finally, something me and Michelle agree on. Neither of us like President Obama. Sadly, the day after the Benghazi attack, President Obama flew to Las Vegas for a fundraiser instead of concentrating on the deaths of 4 American heroes. He tried to relax by hitting up the casinos. Gratefully, they wouldn't let him in. Why? Well, when you've run an entire country into debt, racked up trillions in debt, have never passed a budget because you don't even know how to spell budget, and you have to defend your business the best way possible, that's by not doing business with a complete loser. So, let's stay on the topic of losing. And no, I don't mean the Miami Heat losing LeBron James. The United States recently lost its Standard & Poor's AAA credit rating due to President Obama's inability to pass a budget and spend within the country's means. This means that for the first time in U.S. history, AAA batteries are stronger than the U.S. So if Obama wants the country to be so green, why are we so far in the red? Hey, does anybody know the difference between a redhead and a Democrat? Well, a ginger has twice as much soul. Does anybody know the difference between a Democrat and a 4-year-old? Well, a 4-year-old eventually stops throwing a tantrum. What's the difference between a Democrat and the paparazzi? Well, the paparazzi leaves when they get what they want. What's the difference between a Democrat and roadkill? Nothing. That's got to be the end of the Democrat jokes, right? No, what's the difference between a Democrat and a box of rocks? Well, you can actually polish up a rock and make it look pretty. So I'm assuming that everyone here has heard there's another looming government shutdown on the horizon. How is that possible? We've already been in a government shutdown since November 2008. That's when President Obama was elected. So if there's a ship that's sinking and President Obama, Reid, and Bonamici are on the ship, who gets saved? The United States does. So when I get to D.C., there's something I want to do immediately when I arrive. I want to go introduce myself to Harry Reid, but I'm going to go ask his assistant first. I'm going to go ask his assistant a question. I'm going to lean into the assistant, whisper into his ear so Harry can't hear me. Can I pet him or will he bite me? And then I'll just look at Harry Reid and stare him down. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So there's a famous saying that goes something like, "You are what you eat." If that's true, can the Democrats please stop eating lies, hate, and all types of excrement? Has anybody ever noticed that each major party has a symbol that tries to convey its thoughts and actions? The Republicans have an elephant that represents strength and courage and an unwavering stance. And the Democrats have an ass that represents stubbornness, idiocy, and complete mindlessness. I would have went with the donkey, but if they want to go with Obama, that's okay. So in recent appearances, President Obama and Al Sharpton have been having a very difficult time reading from a teleprompter. If they're having such problems reading words right in front of their face, can we just televise the teleprompter to us so us Americans can read what really is being said? So, how do you get that confused when something's right in front of you? You literally just have to read what's in front of your face. That leads me to a question that's always plagued me. How do you confuse a liberal? Well, you don't have to. They're already born that way. Why do you think there's so many Democrats in LA? Well, it's the only town easy enough for them to spell. Where can you find an intelligent Democrat? He beats me. I've never met one. That's why I'm asking you, folks. This isn't all about me. You got to help too. So, President Obama and the Democrats are staunch union supporters. They never want to fight for the worker, only the union bosses. So I want to propose a vote. Instead of the State of the Union address, let's change it to the State of the SAI Union address. So did you know that President Obama has impeachment insurance built into Obamacare? It's called Joe Biden. Did you realize that there is absolutely no reason for the alphabet to be in the order that it's in? That's a deep thought, isn't it? There's also no reason whatsoever for a Democrat to ever be in charge of anything. So we all know that groups of animals have names for their groups. You know, there's like a school of fish, a pride of lions, a parliament of owls. But what do you call a group of Democrats? A haggle? A migraine? A pest? A blob? An asylum? What do you call it? Oh, it's called Senate. Oh, sorry. That's what it was. So, anybody a fan of Common Core? Okay. So I would be okay with Common Core on one condition. They have to offer an hour-long class for every student where they sit and try to convince a brick wall to change their ideas. The name of the class would be called How to Reason with Liberals. So recently the Supreme Court made a decision about Fourth Amendment rights. They said that no-knock raids are now illegal. So if that means the police can't bust through your door without a warrant or without knocking, are knock-knock jokes illegal now? Probably, yeah, with government they are. So James Buchal's opponent, Earl Blumenauer, has proposed a new gas tax on all drivers based on how many miles they'll drive. Gas tax? Really? How about we just charge liberals for every word they speak? Then also, let's put hot air balloons in front of their faces and they'll fill it up with all their wasted breath, and then maybe we can do a tax on all the balloon rides we can offer to all the kids around the neighborhood. So I thought I was having deja vu the other day, but I just realized that I've been watching Earl and Suzanne every day for the last 2 years. So my opponent's going to be turning 60 on October 14th, which is next Tuesday. By the way, there will be a debate between me and Suzanne here in McMinnville on October 14th at the City Club. But she's going to be turning 60 on October 14th. No, not years old. 60 on the IQ chart, finally. So Hillary and the other liberals just seem to get ticked off at everything. And what's the best way to upset a Democrat? Survive birth. So if I register myself as a corporation, does that mean that I get to commit all the crimes I want to scot-free? Now, wait a minute. Let's go into this. If the government lies, it's called politics, but if I lie, it's called a felony. That's why I'm running for Congress. No, that's not why I'm doing that. So Ronald Reagan, this will be my last thing. Ronald Reagan once said that the government's view of the economy could be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. Well, I'd like to add to that. If it's dead, we should set it on fire, roll it off a cliff, and then go wash your hands clean of liberalism. So, that's my act for tonight. I really hope you've had fun with the comedy. We're going to try to take this all over North Oregon and see what we can do with this. So that's all for the comedy. What I'm going to do is we have a few minutes. I'd like to give everybody 5 more minutes to go over to the silent auction items and put your final bids. Just remember you're helping out our campaigns, so just be as generous as you possibly can. Then here at about 8:45, we're going to go through the live auctions so you can bid on these. So please come up here, check out what we've got so you'll know what we can bid on, and just open up your pocketbooks and help me and James get to Congress. Thanks.